Hello! How's it going, guys? Welcome to Oye Cinema Club. It's me, your host, Steve Des, but I'm also here with your other lovely hosts. We got Michaela, JP, El Dondino, and we are going to talk about the movie Coming to America. Coming to America was picked by me because I said, let's pick for our next round a movie that's been either very impactful in society or a very energetic or like an action type of film that you not necessarily an action genre film, but an action film that caused you to get like really impacted in your life, whether it energized you in a positive way or impacted the culture in a positive way or in whatever way form you think it has like a deep rooted energy that this movie has. So this particular movie, I remember this is my second time watching it, and I remember the first time that I watched it, I already heard so many things about this movie. So it wasn't until years later, actually like about 2 years ago, that I actually saw it for the first time. And this movie really change my point of view of what movies could be in different genres that are actually represented by people that are more diverse. And it was a great film in my opinion. But before I go deep into more things about the movie, I want to know your first impressions. So let's start with the birthday non-binary person here, Michaela.
Hello, hello. So this is actually my first time seeing this film through from beginning to end. Like I've seen a lot of clips and yeah. Um I think that there is a reason why this is considered a like there's a reason why this is a classic. 100%. Like it kind of really recreates glamour in its own way. The humor is really sharp. It's a really great play on how Westerners do fairy tales. Yeah, no, it was a really good experience. I'm really glad I got to see this.
Thank you, Michaela. Let's go with Dino.
What? Well, first impression, more like 101st impression. I've seen this movie a bunch, and I love the movie. I'm glad Michaela changed it from cult classic to just classic, because yeah, I think it's just flat out classic. I
100%.
first, yeah, I first saw this in Paraguay, and it was one of those like just scrolling cable or whatever, and I saw Eddie Murphy, and I was like, I'm down for this, and then I kept seeing it over and over. It's one that kept showing on cable, and not like TV version, so the actual dropping of the f bombs and the boobies and all that good stuff. And it wasn't until like seeing the very end of the movie where they actually it's like, oh my god, Eddie Murphy did all these roles or did all these, and Arsenio Hall also did a bunch of different roles. And I probably watched this after The Nutty Professor, I want to say. If I did earlier, I might not remember it, but definitely afterwards, I was like, so he's already been doing multiple characters. I just love so much about this movie. It's also I have like a fondness to it because before I moved to the U.S., my brother had moved over, and then my mom moved over, and then there was like I think around 6 months or maybe 8 months where it was just my dad and I. Yeah, my dad and I. Is that what you said? And every time I would be on TV and it was just like the two of us, we would kind of watch this. And it's just like this very silly, like, we're going to be going to America ourselves. Like, we might not be kings and prince, but yeah. So we would have a fun time. And it's a movie that even my dad doesn't really like comedies, doesn't really enjoy that as much, but there's something about this movie that he would really tickle him, and yeah, so a lot of quotable lines that I still say. Like I say, he good, good, terrible, and anything from the barber shop. I just yeah, so good, so such a beautiful film. Anywho, that's
Th- Thank
that's
you so
me.
much, Dino. JP.
That's crazy because I think my dad had really liked this movie too. Like this was one of my parents' favorite movies while growing up, and like my dad would quote this movie a lot. He would quote a lot of James Earl Jones's lines because he was. I think he's a fan of James Earl Jones's work. Like he used to quote this movie a lot, and it was also The Lion King. Like I don't know, just him doing the big voice. Like it's so dumb. He'll like whenever he's looking for us, he was like, "Where's Akeem?" It's like okay, I get it. But no, this film, like it's so weird because like I haven't seen it in a good while, but I've seen this movie several times in my childhood. So there was scenes which like I vaguely remembered, and then scenes like okay, like now that I understand the context of it, I could enjoy it a lot more. Um, but yeah, like it's so weird because I know that they used to watch a lot of like other Eddie Murphy movies too, like Beverly Hills Cops, and was he in the one where he and Dan Aykroyd was it swapping or something like that? I forgot
Yeah,
where.
it's we're just talking about it. Trading places.
Yeah, Trading Places, which I think this movie has a small cameo from two of the
Yep,
characters in
yep.
in this movie, which now makes it two like it's literally a cinematic universe. It's hilarious, but
More,
like
more.
it's weird because like I remember scenes that I thought were in this movie that now that I'm remembering again. It's like okay, it was most likely either from Trading Spaces or Beverly Hills Cops, just because I know Eddie Murphy. But this movie has been revisited a lot back in my childhood. So like seeing it now, it's so cool. It's so goddamn funny. Um, and I ended up watching the sequel after this movie, and it's not bad. The sequel isn't bad. I could tell what they were trying to do, trying to repeat. It's a weird thing though when newer movies try to kind of use the same stepping stones or the same like beats that the previous movie had, and it just didn't. I don't think it fully worked. I think this is like a product of its time. Like it probably just worked better then, and like you just can't really repeat it now without making it seem very like unoriginal, just a very like a carbon copy. But yeah, no, this movie it's hilarious, definitely quotable. And of course, Arsenio Hall and Eddie Murphy, fucking brilliant talents in this fucking movie. Like
Peak.
it's right. And oh my gosh, and my favorite thing to quote from this movie was always the final joke from the Yiddish person in the barbershop. Um, I don't want to
Taste
say the
my
joke,
yeah.
but
Taste my soup.
taste the
That
soup.
was
Where's
good.
the spoon? I
It,
the joke. Oh well, but yeah, overall, good movie.
it was Randolph and Mortimer Duke are
Oh, we're
the
the
two
two old
guys.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, Steve.
So, um, the movie starts showing this very quite unique palace where the prince has basically been allowed to do nothing for himself. So, I want to know from you guys. I'm going to start with Michaela because it's her first time watching it. Uh, I want to know, like, what were your thoughts about that opening scene and everything that occurred in that palace?
Honestly, I think that this was kind of the birth of a different, like a new kind of aesthetic almost. Like the glamour and opulence in this context is just breathtaking. The fact that someone took so much time to really like fill out this world and like all of the clothing, like it was just so beautiful, you know? Like it's definitely like I'm kind of sad that you don't see a lot of cosplayers from this like movie
Huh.
because like there's like a lot of really fun stuff to play with. You know?
I think I've seen The King before. Maybe
Yeah,
at Comic Con. I think I saw it once.
but like even then, like even the courtesans and like the silhouettes of like the clothes in general are it's just like amazing. And like also I think it's a very clever play on what like royalty is supposed to look like in a very like European sense, but translated in a different way.
Right.
You know? So like I think that was a very clever move on their part.
Man, it's funny. The only thing I remembered in my childhood was, of course, the bathers. Like that's the one thing that stuck out when growing up. Like, ooh, like ladies get to wash him, but like the extent of like how pampered his life was, and like to the point where it's a good way to like show like, well, you know, like he's doing this because at the behest of his father. Like his father's like, my son should never have to work, should never have to exceed any sort of like labor that, you know, he doesn't have to do. So it's crazy the extent of how spoiled he is.
Well, like I said, like I think that's how a lot of people with like an extravagant amount of like that's the myth perpetuated is like I've earned this, so I will make sure my children will never have to ever again, and that was like such a big part of the culture during the time.
Mm-hmm. I think still pretty much is like
it is,
you know, you know.
But like I feel like we hide it a little bit more with like this idea of hustle culture, you know.
But yeah, no, but like
anyway.
Them babies.
Yeah. I think I agree with the opening scene doing a great job of just creating that whole world. You know, it's just from having this little band playing. Like it's even funny because like who's the servant? The actor's name is Paul, but
Oha.
Yeah. He goes down there and you see the musicians kind of go in, and then he opens a cupboard and it has to look at the clock, and there's a sound system right there. So it's like, oh, like he could just have a regular alarm from like the radio or whatever or tape, and it's like, no, he's gonna have French horns and some I think violins wake him up. You know, and it just gets it's more and more ridiculous every time. I was actually talking to Jason about it also, of how straight they play everything throughout the whole movie. And what makes it really great and even funnier, or what makes the comedy, is the people, like the extras around them, reacting to the ridiculousness of how straight they're playing these royal regal people, right? So yeah, I think this movie does a great job of just creating the world, and then right away going into Queens, which all that is just hilarious in itself. Of why Queens? Like, well, looking for a queen, what better place than go to a place that's called Queens? Just it's this great vision also of what foreign people might think of the U.S. if they're just looking at the maps of places in the U.S. It's like, oh, what's Queens about? You know, that's those are my thoughts of the opening scene.
So before we get to Queens, I gotta say that one of my absolute favorite parts, and it's like a sequence of scenes, is when he is going to meet the girl that he's going to be paired with to get married. Because that entire dance sequence, I was like, yo, I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, yo, how long is this? like they did this absolutely on purpose. And And then the dude singing, "She's your queen to be."
We your
Dead.
desire.
And then when he goes and takes her to the side, and she's just like, "I just been trained to just be what, like a yes person to you," and then like bark like a dog, like that was just all of that was just hilarious to me. Uh so that was one of my favorite sequence of scenes.
Woof, woof. Yeah. Also, just to go with that, it's like they're the boobs, right? There's a bunch of fucks flying around everywhere. Um, but it's not super like dirty. It's not. I really watching it again now, and I didn't finish the sequel. Admit it, I think I got like halfway through and I fell asleep, and I just haven't had time to finish it. But it feels that like the humor has changed because that seemed like to just have a little like dirtier humor, right? Like whether it's way more sexual. This like even the sexual stuff, even the you know the sow your royal oats and all these other like it was a lot of innuendos and a lot of kind of those kind of jokes. Whereas now, even in the new one, it's way more like of the blowjobs and everything. Like it's this is like yeah, like innuendos and like the jokes are there, but depending what age you are watching this, you there's some jokes, some things you aren't gonna get. So watching this again this time, I was like, oh, this seems so clean compared to like newer comedies and all that. Even though like I said, there are a lot of fucks. Every kind of like use that you can do of the word fuck and other words in a sentence is used in this. So that's from the get go also. Because then, yeah, there's again, I uh, I think I just lost my train of thought. But
No, I get what you're saying, and I think that the movie is better because of it. You
yeah,
know, because like you're right, it's not so like in your face, but because like at the end of the day, they're telling a story, and I think that's something that Hollywood has lost when it comes to the comedy or like the art of comedy. Now it's all about like getting the laughs as soon as you can, and then like if the story manages to match along, that's a cherry on top. Whereas I feel like back then it was a lot more constructed. Like this is the story, this is the main thing about, but we could pepper some of this stuff in too,
right.
and it
And
adds
and
more to the story.
and kind of like the world building of the whole thing because
Mm-hmm.
it's that idea of again like I was talking about the background people and the extras reacting to the craziness of what they're hearing and nowadays and I mean and clearly because of COVID it's done more but so many comedies now are just like a close up on one person talking and doing a joke, and then we're going to just the other person reacting. So there aren't that many like in comedies, and of course you can easily probably say a bunch of the ones where they do it, but it's very is it static or one dimensional? You just see like
Mm-hmm.
someone telling a joke and then a reaction and then them kind of talking. Whereas like this, you can see multiple people other than the times where they're doing a different role and like in the barber shop you don't have that many shots of everyone kind of together because it is them doing the same roles. That's why you have a very young Cuba Gooding Jr. just getting a haircut at the very beginning to create that environment and create a world where their people are actually living. But anywho, more thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to Queens, shall we?
Queen, 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 queen.
Queens.
What was your favorite bit or scene from when he got to Queens?
Like
And
I
fuck
think
you! Yes! Fuck you too! Sorry, I hijacked Dino's thing. Sorry.
But like, tis a classic.
But yeah.
I don't you didn't hijack. So I would imagine the Queens thing. Your question is specifically like when they first get there, right? I mean, because the whole movie takes place there. Is that what you're saying, or just?
Yeah, when they first get there.
I mean, so if you just go visual gag, there's so many visual gags from like people stealing their suitcases and then the next day. But one like maybe underrated or just that I always just laugh at is the outline of the blind guy and the dog and the cane. Like there's an outline of his cane. And and of course they say the line, it's a real shame what they did to the dog. It's like, what? Like that.
Oh.
Like,
Oh, the dog.
like explain. There's only one window, and it's facing a brick wall. So I was renting it to a blind man. It's yeah. That alone is pretty funny, but
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Oh yeah. No. Cause like I was under the assumption like, oh, the old man, like, because he said, oh, blind man's like, so he obviously died, like, probably on his own. But then before he even mentions the dog, you do see the outline of the dog. So as soon as the super says, like, it's a damn shame what they did to the dog, it's like, so that implies that someone went up there to take care of this old man and leave no witnesses, so they took care of the dog as well. It's like, that's insane. Like, that's cruel.
oh, so you were just thinking that it was cruel and a damn shame because they killed the dog. I thought they did some other gross shit with the dog before they killed it. Like that's where my
Oh yeah, because
mind,
this.
I guess
Yeah.
took it.
Oh my god. Like, I guess that it gives you, it leaves you enough imagination. It's like, okay, they obviously did something to the dog as well. Because like, the old man didn't die on his own if the dog also died. Like, something happened to him and the dog.
Arsenio Hall also is great at just his reaction, to like everything. Like, because it's someone that's just being dragged along, and you can, but he's like, I gotta serve him, I'm his, I basically bodyguard, best friend, manservant, but his reactions are pretty epic. I mean, I think my favorite thing to be, and by favorite, I'm sure I'm gonna find like 50 other ones while we're talking. But it's got to be the barber shop. I mean, those lines, the ridiculousness of it, like Martin Luther the King. Like you've never met Martin Luther the King. Like punch me in the like all of that. Like Cassius Clay, his mama called him Cassius, so I'm gonna call him Cassius. Like Rocky Marciano, and it's like every time
White man has to bring up.
they only have Rocky. He was 75 years old. Like he was 76. One time Frank Sinatra was sitting in that chair. Like all of that is just so good. But yeah. So anything with the barbershop, I think, is just beautiful.
Mhm.
Sexual chocolate.
Sexual chocolate.
Oh my god.
That boy good. That boy good.
He good, terrible. And then donations, and he puts the chicken wing in there. I thought it was trash. How about you, Steve? Did you say what your like favorite Queen thing was?
I mean, honestly, you guys said both of the things that I was gonna say. So I gotta fast forward a little bit more and say when he was going on speed dates.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was a clever way of like showing because I thought because I totally forgot how they went about trying to find women in Queens. So that was also really smart of them. It's like, oh, like they literally, it almost feels like an audition round. Like, and a few of them literally like, oh, that's straight up their fucking audition. I thought it was hilarious that there was two sets of twins. Like, apparently, like, oh, we have two favorite twins and we can't pick between the two, so we're gonna have them both show up. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
But
they're Siamese twins that just got separated.
that was hilarious. But yeah, no, it's a great way of showing, you know, without killing too much time. It's like, yes, like this is them like attempting to find the right woman and then being guided again. It's like, oh, you like by the barbershop guys. No, you don't want to find you're not gonna find a good woman there. You have to go to public meetups or like church or something like that. And then he invites you the library. I was good.
Or an independent bookstore, right?
Or independent bookstore.
Yep.
But then it gives them the reason to go to the So Glow sponsored, like weird
Black Heritage Week.
I have no idea what that thing was. Like
that's what they said. It was Black Heritage Week.
Black
Assembly.
Well, that's what they said. It was a Black Heritage Week, but there was women in swimsuits, and then some guy preaching, and it's like, wait, what is this?
It was they were at church, and it was a Black Heritage pageant as well. And yeah, it's great because the priest even brings up, like, he's like giving all the Bible examples of like succeeding or whatever, and then he brings Gilligan Island into it as well, like just complete ridiculousness. But again, playing it super straight, brings up sexual chocolate, and so much is kind of also again the crowd work, the everyone, the extras all did such great job. Or sorry, background actors. Just to I know there's a big difference between extras and background actors. Background actors did amazing, and in that church scene as well, just like not giving sexual chocolate the time of day, but then when the girl comes up, everyone, like, you can just tell, right? Like, you don't have to hear much about her because everyone loves her. Everyone starts clapping for her. And yeah, again, this is really well done movie, and it's sad that it's not on, other than talking about it being a classic and all that and a comedy and all that, it's just not brought up as almost to study it a little bit more, because we're talking with Jason also about how there were other people that kind of would play multiple characters that had maybe done it a bit before, but Eddie Murphy like kind of revolutionized it, right? It was that period of time where the technology had gotten advanced to a certain point, and makeup as well and all that, and he really took advantage of it, and there's a lot of things that we see now in movies that I feel like Eddie Murphy and in the 80s and in movies like this really started it. And yeah, and more people need to see this movie and also maybe dissect it a little bit more of just all the great things that it has. A really strong script, really strong actors and performances, and really strong background actors. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Did you give a thing about Queens?
Did I?
I don't know.
I don't remember either. Oh, I mean, if there was, I also enjoyed the barbershop because you could tell that was like a piece of someone's home when that was written. Like, that's why that's so good. It's because, like, I feel like every rundown neighborhood has a spot like that. And, like, has, like, elders like that. And so that was why that was highly relatable. anything to do with like the soul glow was just absolutely ridiculous. Like whoever did the design for that, above and beyond, thank you, sir. Did your duty, made your paycheck. Good for you. Like, excellent.
No woman has ever fallen for a man because of their Jerry curl.
What about those prices? I'll go back. Funny cutting the little rat tail, and it's like that'll be $8, and then one of the taxi rides was like $9, and I was like, man, that's some cheap stuff back in the '80s, right?
And the crazy thing is, chances are the people watching that would have been like, "Oh my god, that was robbery."
Well, yeah, the haircut thing for sure. Like, yeah, it was a lot of great stuff. We haven't even gotten to McDowell's either. Where to next, El Capitan?
Well, you talked about it. Let's be about it. Let's talk about my doubts.
McDowell's, not McDonald's. McDowell's.
Like talking about a
Okay.
piece of social commentary that like people probably don't even realize was social commentary, because like that was like around the age where like the idea of franchising really took off, you know. So
You
like,
think?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Not
Yeah,
before?
during the 80s for sure, like when families got to open up like a version of that same restaurant.
Because like during the 60s and 70s, like yes, there were still franchises, but they had a little bit more freedom to like kind of, at this one you can get this special little thingy, like if we're sneaky about it, you
Right.
know. Like it wasn't nearly as like, yes, someone owns the McDonald's that is not a McDonald's person nowadays, but they're all the same.
I just thought it was like we're McDowell's, not McDonald's. They have the Big Mac. We got the Big Mick.
That was good.
Louis Anderson is such a great, like, again, his reactions, his manner, and then his little spiel. Like, I started mopping floors, and now I'm washing lettuce. Pretty soon I'll be, in charge of the fries, and then I'll be on the grill. And then in about 2 years, I'll be assistant manager, and that's where the money really starts. Like, that spiel is also so great.
He also is very like doing less for better results.
Mm-hmm.
Or like nowadays, like I'm guilty of it too. Where any other actor they'll throw in some like ad libs during a scene where nothing is scripted for them, when all you need to do is just give a good reaction. Like Louis Anderson made some really great reactions in this movie that didn't need any spiels or any quips. Like all we needed to know about the Soul Glow guy was him take the dad taking the milkshake away from someone else's order, and then the Soul Glow guy asking Louis Anderson's like, "And a straw, please," and he's like just gives him the straw with that look. Like that, all we needed was that look and that transaction of that whole scene going on. Louis didn't say zip because he didn't need to. Like it was great. He, R.I.P. He did a really good job with what little he was given.
Every time I see a mop bucket, and I just think of this movie. Like, I kid you not. Like, that shit is so funny. Of just like, what is it, born with a silver spoon or whatever. Just the idea, because I've had some of those jobs where it's like I do have to mop, I do have to do this, and then there were some interns or whatever, and I was like, kind of had to explain how to use the mop bucket, and so I just think of just like, yeah, don't worry about the don't don't use the bucket, it'll just confuse you. Is just so great.
Oh yeah, I have definitely felt that way in my life before.
It's like so close. So it's like so close.
It's like how have you gotten this far without learning how to mop a floor properly?
Yeah.
How?
But yeah, damn, that was also pretty damn funny. Oh boy. And then when we talk about young Cuba Gooding Jr., we have a still pretty good looking Samuel who shows up at McDowell's too. Like that's
Yeah.
yep, golf clap.
To me, the scene that won me over, because at first I was like O.J. Simpson, and then at the scene that won me over was when he was in his office with a McDonald's like flag.
Remember the McDonald's binder?
And someone like knocks on the door. And he's like, "Oh."
And it's such a quick thing that if you don't pay attention, because I think it only says McDonald's on the spine of the binder, not the binder itself. So if you don't pay attention quick enough, like you'll miss the joke. But that was hilarious. Like, do they look like McDonald's people? Like, I don't think they are, sir.
It's in Chicago. There's this famous place called the Wiener Circle. That's the one where at night after 9 p.m. or 10, the people working there just cuss you out all the time, and it's known for that and a little bit more that they do there. But it's basically across the street from a McDonald's, and for Halloween they've like turned it into like a McDowell's. So like they do the sign with the golden arcs, and the and the people working there have like the McDowell's outfit. It's great. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's so much of this movie that is everywhere if you think about it.
The commitment to the Scottish uniforms. That was also great. I think a McDonald's employee would look brilliant in plaid with a stupid hat.
Please don't. Please don't do that to people. Please don't.
They look pretty smart on them.
Would you like to wear that every single day for 8 hours a day? That's what I thought.
In 5 years,
Maybe.
a manager and get the big bucks.
The question still stands, Your Honor.
So let's talk about favorite characters.
Oh man. Well, I mean, we got the barbershop. I feel like you gotta exclude the barbershop, right?
Ah, boo!
Favorite
I mean-
standalone character.
Oh, that is beautiful. Is this velvet? That's still the barbershop. If it's not our main leads, which is of course Lisa, Akeem, and Semi, like, because I think that's another one that like, you gotta leave those characters out too, because they're brilliant characters. They're our leads. We love them. We love all three of them. If I were to say like my favorite secondary character, like, oh gosh, it would have to be. I'm gonna put James Earl Jones a close second, but I think the mom, because oh my gosh, she is so like radiant and powerful without saying much at all, and because you could like you get enough time with James Earl Jones' character, like he's the fucking king. Like he straight up tells his son, it's like, have you not had sex with the bathers? I know I do. As if like that, like it's good to be king, right? Like, he doesn't have to be completely loyal to his wife, and his wife was given to him because he's the fucking king. But the mom has enough smarts and whereabouts of the world where it's like no, like you are my son, and I'm gonna try, and I'm still gonna be your mom, and I'm gonna tell you how it is, and like live your life, which is so cool. It's also great that both James Earl Jones and I hate myself for forgetting the actress's name, but they're the king and queen in this movie, and they're the king and queen in The Lion King. Like it's great, which was something, of course, my dad also brought up because he would fucking quote both movies all the fucking time.
Well, for character, then I would say this is right without, I guess, secondary, which he might not be secondary, but uh, Amos McDowell, the dad.
Oh, Mr.
Mhm.
McDowell.
Yeah, because he's such a grifter, right? I mean, we've already even pointed out some of the scenes, like him basically like ripping off McDonald's and then kind of having that binder, and then just like everything is so well delivered. Just like, hey, we have this thing going. Like trying to talk about football. He's like, I'm just gonna tell you one thing, one time, lay off the drugs, and then and he does such a great job of like really wanting nothing really to do with Akeem and all that, right? Other than like, yeah, you're below me, which is also a great thing of like caste system and like society, because it's almost like there's always someone higher up, right? Like in Queens, in that moment, McDowell, like he's the king, right? So he's trying to do all these things, and he's treating his daughter the same way the king is basically treating Akeem, like just doesn't matter if there's love, just wants to make sure the name is kind of protected and the money is protected. uh but then like he does that 180 of like once he finds out Akeem is the prince, and then yeah, so he's up there as one of my favorite also, because and mainly not just the lines that he has and like he's made of money, or he's got his own money. I mean, he's got his own money. The scene where, because he told the soul glow guy to come over that night, and shows up at 9 with flowers, and it's like just slams the door, like comes back, slams the door, like, and the interaction with the dog, they have the dog doing double takes of just looking like that's what I'm talking about with like the background people and the dog, even of like showing their reactions, because it just like completely, you know and then gets the little dog to like sick him, like, get him.
That was
So
great.
I'd say, here, try out the laser. Like he's up there with one of the greats of just secondary characters. And I wonder, talk about like what's ad lib, like him running up the steps and tripping. Like,
Oh
is
my
that
god.
did they add that? Because that's again heightening. Because he went up to the door, I think at least 3 times, and he's just so like flustered and trying to keep everything together, and like he trips, and I'm like, is that something that they're like, hey, trip on this one just to heighten it and create more tension, or was that an actual trip and he just kept going? So
No, the way that he fell, I think that was real, and good on him for still playing the scene, because that was also really good. Nah, he's like and plus like he's not entirely one note. He of course like there's a line that he's not willing to cross, and that's if you talk shit about your daughter, like if it weren't for that, he would have taken that 1-2 million in probably in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
But as soon as his family's name was on the line, it's like no, like James Earl Jones, you're a goddamn asshole.
Well,
Fuck you, King Joffer.
But like, no, I disagree with that. Just because, like, yes, he is a grifter, but he's proud of where he's come from. Like, he started from nothing, and the only reason why he's so defensive about that stuff is because he wants them to genuinely have a better life, and this is what he sees as the better way, especially since they are his daughters, like traditionally. And like I think that's why his character works too, because like as much as he's flawed, like he's still like everybody's dad,
yeah,
you know. And like I don't think the story would work if he wasn't charming and if we didn't like him at least a little.
yeah. I
But
mean,
just
he even talks about that. Him and his wife, were in this basically little shack. Not like shack, but probably a 1 bedroom or something, right? And
Exactly.
and it became successful.
Exactly.
The American dream. Maybe in 20 years you could have something like, so many great different levels. How about you, Steve? Did you get a favorite character out yet?
Oh, I have to say my favorite character was whoever did the voiceover for Soul Glow, because I was dying laughing when they were hitting those notes. Just let your soul glow. It was
Have you
hilarious.
ever had something like that done to your hair, Steve?
And he's like,
Or
Not Soul Glow, but I've had
JP?
treatment.
Some Jerry
I,
curl? Uh,
I'm pretty sure I'm willing to admit perhaps once I left a stain on a couch. Like those three assholes. Oh my god! I saw that was also just a good visual gag, where it's
Yeah.
like because they even say it like oh he's only rich because he inherited Soul Glow from the family, and it's like all the family are using the product.
Yeah, I even brought that up with Jason also. Just something that small of just like, you know, let's let's mention it. Let's bring that up. Let's have a visual gag. Um, which again, right? Like the McDonald's binder, the Soul Glow stain, like it's just so beautifully done. But yeah, I guess JP, Steve, and Jason could all get a little perm action going, a little
So
Soul Glow.
I'll do my best Lionel Richie impression.
Yeah, sexual chocolate.
Ready, Watson.
So, do you guys want to talk about any particular scene or any moment before we are heading to final thoughts?
The amount of money that they threw in this movie, like narratively, pissed me the fuck off. He spent $500,000 on earrings,
Yeah,
and Sebi had the balls, the absolute audacity to send us $300,000 more at that whole bit at the Western Union,
yeah,
because you know that those people probably fucking see this all the time, like these goddamn scammers, these fucking assholes, like trying to fork money from other folks, and it reads as a fucking email. It's like we need money, please send in like 300.
we're in dire.
Like, why don't you make it $500,000? While we're at it, how about 1 million? that that scene was good.
Mm-hmm. It was. She's a good secondary character too.
Yeah. Well, so many of them were either stand-up people, like Louie. I believe she was also a stand-up. There's some other ones sprinkled around as well. So, yeah. All right, Steve.
Alrighty. So, shall we go to final thoughts?
You.
Alrighty. Let's go a little backwards. JP, tell us your final thought.
Oh god! I really dig this movie, and like it's so crazy that most people don't think that comedies can be well made cinematic wise. But like I think we touched upon it a little bit. The movie looks really fucking good. It looks damn well good. I mean, even in the beginning, when we were watching it, I made fun of the palace at the beginning because it was a matte painting. It was an obvious matte painting, but then they did the thing where you zoom in and you see the action going about with the real life elements against the matte painting. Which like any other quick to make comedy movie, I don't think they would have the time or even the desire to do that because that's literal movie magic, extra special effects to throw in. That's money. That's moon. And they had the time to make sure that not only did our environment looked real and looked good set wise, but to frame it up really well too. I was, even though it's pretty obvious that they were using doubles for Semi and Akeem's fighting thing in the morning, but that was done really fucking well. It was like setting up wise and editing was pretty damn good. I mean, in the wide shots you could tell it was doubles, but like it looked fucking good. So yeah, the film like looks very great. The story is rather simple, but like the script and the characters more than make up for it, and you don't need to overcomplicate. So all in all, like yeah, it's an awesome classic, A+ movie, and I'm definitely. I remember my dad saying that fucking spoon joke all the goddamn time, and like it's one of my favorite damn jokes. It's taste the soup. Like, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Just taste the soup. All right, all right. Where's the spoon? Aha, aha. So, it's I love it. It's good.
Thank you, JP. Now, Dino.
Final thoughts. Um, yeah, I love this movie. Um, Good, clean, fun. It's one of those. We've seen different comedies now, and some of it, are very period centric and hasn't really aged all that well. Like in what is you know doable or not doable. But I didn't really find anything super like controversial, right? Like there's not really a lot of movies in the 80s and all that and early 90s might have way more, you know, especially with them dressing up as other people. And there's like the one part where Arsenio is in drag, right? And I feel like even that, they don't play it how other movies played, guys in drag and stuff like that. So I think this movie really holds up in the sense that it's not, like again, everything is either innuendos or other than the fucks that are thrown. It's pretty darn clean, fun, and I really enjoy this movie. I will watch it every few years. I feel like not as much lately, but whenever for whatever reason it comes up, I'm like, you know what? I need to give this another viewing. And usually every time I find something else that I hadn't really noticed. So yeah, this is a classic, and I recommend it to anyone. I mean, why wouldn't I? It's really funny. You like actors doing multiple characters? This is a movie for you. You like Eddie Murphy? This is a movie for you. You like Samuel L. Jackson? This is a movie for you. Probably the first movie that he throws an F bomb. Probably not, but it's fun. I enjoyed this movie a lot. I will recommend it to everyone. And yeah, let's uh, let's do it, Akeem. Let's go for the trilogy.
Michaela.
I really like it. I do think it's a classic in its own right. I think it's one of those great American films that are going to hold up for years and years to come. It's one of my favorite directors of all time because he also did American Werewolf in London, which I think is a crazy connection.
I heard that he killed a man on set.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's kind of like he's one of those directors, like if he hadn't made such a huge mistake and was too proud about it, like he would be in a different tier of directors, and it's a shame. But like honestly, like it holds up, and it really is its own piece of pop culture that's really important for a lot of people, and I'm glad I got to be a part of it.
Noise.
Thank you, Michaela. Now me. This is a really amazing movie, and one thing to point out how impactful this movie is and was and will be is that this is one of those first movies that you see a different light, at least in cinema, when it comes to African American people portrayed a certain way. And it's very important culturally that we see different roles of different types because of the very clear whitewashing that has happened, in cinema since the early beginning. And so, in that way, I feel like this movie was very huge, especially during its time, um, as the word got around because of that, because of the fact that you could see a little bit more than just the typical stereotypical way that African American people being represented in movies. So it was like a nice break from it.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. I would recommend it to a bunch of people because it's one of those movies that I've been hearing about it for so many years, and I didn't watch it till like really recent. The first time I watched it was like 2 years ago, and this is the second time I watch it. Just like Dino, I might watch it again in the near future. It's really, it's a great film in my opinion, and it still holds up. So that's it for the review of Coming to America.
Very nice. Hey, JP, you got a question that Jason would have had?
I think I do. Steve,
Yeah. What do you got for us next week?
what you got for us next week?
Next week, I don't know why you asked me because I just went. Duh. So clearly it's not me unless I'm a dictator over here. But I'm not. It's Dino's turn. So Dino.
What? Who? Me? Couldn't be. Then who? All right. So Steve came up with this whole spiel of why he picked this movie and what the kind of genre he was trying to make that we would pick going forward. I totally didn't remember him saying that last time. So this is a movie that I picked that I haven't seen. I don't think any of us had seen, but it's something that has come up on my radar multiple times, and I've been kind of saving it for us to watch, or it's one that I put on the back burner, and I'm like, all right, this one. If I can think of a movie for Oye Cinema Club, I'll bring this one up, and it is drum roll, please. The Maltese Falcon. Ah!
well, that's socially impactful.
What?
I say that counts as socially impactful. So
100%.
yeah,
So excited
Is
about
that?
this.
I think so.
Are you are
So
you excited?
excited.
Okay. Have you guys met?
It's there's a
You've
reason
seen it?
why I have.
So this does fit under the
Hundred
under
and
it
the
does
twelve percent.
like
112%.
so many movies have referenced this movie that I even though I've never seen the movie either, is like no, that definitely has cultural relevance.
well there you go. I still got it into the parameters of Steve
Nailed.
Does. All right. Take us away, Steve.
Alrighty, for El Don Dino, Michaela, and JP. Me, Steve, that's TP. We'll catch you next week.
Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye bye bye. And the